authority. What's to prevent the NROs being rescinded now and prosecutions going ahead in all the cases, including Mr. Zardari himself?
Actually, Shahab, I tend to agree with your conclusion that there is some kind of a deal that has been struck in the background, and the evidence that proves your theory lies in a press conference today by I'tizaz Ahsan, the lawyer politician who led the cause, managed the campaign on behalf of Chaudhry Iftikhar. Now, Mr. I'tizaz Ahsan held a press conference today, and in this press conference he made a very startling statement. He said he hopes that Chaudhry Iftikhar, after being restored to his job as the Chief Justice of Pakistan, will not personally look into the question of the NRO, which is a surprise actually for most supporters of the Chief Justice, because one of the main reasons they were supporting the Chief Justice is to rescind this piece of legislation, which most people here agree is unconstitutional, because it lets someone keep a lot of money, a lot of wealth outside Pakistan that is questionable, whose sources are questionable. So there appears to be some kind of an agreement in the background.
Okay, Ahmad Qureshi, I was looking for clues as to whether a deal might have been struck. What was, between the lines? And made very interesting reading the comments of one Richard Holbrooke, the envoy to the region. He welcomed this move. Absolutely startling. I mean, for those that follow Pakistani affairs, the idea that Richard Holbrooke would welcome Iftikhar Mohammed Chowdhury back into the fold of the Pakistani establishment is quite astounding. This gentleman, the Chief Justice, was saying that he was going to investigate the disappearances of people that had been rendered on behalf of the United States, allegedly, by the former Pakistani regime. Is he still going to do that, do you think? Or is Richard Holbrooke's comment indicative of the fact that Mr. Chowdhury has been willing to let go of that hobby horse?
Okay, first, Shahab, the American role. Let's be very clear about something. The Americans right now, we're trying their level best to save President Zardari's government. This is very important. Why? Because they have huge investment. They've made huge investments in this government over the past 1 year. You have to remember, during this past 1 year, a lot of decisions, not in the public arena, have been made about the level of Pakistani cooperation with the Americans with regards to Afghanistan. Those things are not in the public domain right now. Permissions were given by this government to the Americans to expand the war on terror on the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, something that is not popular here. So Americans have a lot at stake. Remember one more thing, Shahab. The Americans brokered a deal to bring this government into existence. Of course, Benazir Bhutto was supposed to be at the top of this government, but since she was assassinated, Mr. Zardari stepped in exchange for getting all that money, the wealth that he has in various accounts all over the world, the corruption money. Now, it was in the interest of the Americans. Now, when you talk about Justice Chaudhry and the fact that he will investigate things that the Americans are uncomfortable about, I must say that even now, when the government here has announced the restoration of the Chief Justice back to his seat, there are certain modalities yet to be decided. This includes to what extent the government will allow the Chief Justice to go in tackling these various issues, whether his powers would be limited, and how long would he stay in his seat. Would it be for a shortened term? There are things that are yet to be decided. And it seems, even now, almost 24 hours after the government's startling announcement restoring the Chief Justice, there are many questions that are left. What the government has done here, very intelligently and very creatively, is to put a wedge, so to speak, between the political agenda of Mr. Nawaz Sharif and the lawyers' movement. The lawyers' movement has been separated effectively from Mr. Nawaz Sharif's agenda by restoring the Chief Justice. What the government did is to rob Mr. Sharif of his ability to exploit the lawyers' movement to achieve other political aims. So what happens right now, the status on the ground is this. The lawyers' movement, the Chief Justice, has been settled. Now, Nawaz Sharif has to deal with the government on the merit of the issues, the problems that he has with the government. And he can no longer exploit, for example, the street power of the lawyers' movement. So you have to keep all these things in mind when you look at the situation.
Shahid Qureshi?
Well, I think Mr. Nawaz Sharif has sort of won the hearts and minds of the people of Pakistan by coming out on the street, and he sort of have a one-point agenda, which was to do with the restoration of judiciary as well as the restoration of the Chief Justice of Pakistan. He never sort of played the on Mr. Zardari's position is too much sort of having a backup of the foreign elements, i.e. the United States and the other allies. And that is, everybody in the streets of Pakistan is very well aware with that in last 12 months. I think at the same time, Mr. Nawaz Sharif has a one-point agenda. He was not bothered about what's going to happen to his brother's government in Punjab.
Actually, Dr. Shahid, I disagree with you. You're attaching too much noble intentions to Pakistani politicians. The fact is that Mr. Sharif was quite comfortable with his Punjab government, and the only time he came down on the streets is when his Punjab government was removed. He had no problem with the NRO president being in power.
Well, then I think then President Zardari has to have his if I may say what Financial Times have reported, the mental capacity check, basically. Then he brought Chief Justice onto himself by removing his brother's government.
Yes,
I agree with you.
What was
the need for
Yes, I agree with you.
What was the need
for power lust. He wanted to control the largest Pakistani province, Zardari. And Zardari basically made a fatal mistake by aligning all his enemies against him at once. There's no question that Mr. Zardari made a huge blunder, but let's also not forget that Mr. Sharif had no problem dealing with an NRO president, a corrupt president, and make a deal with him and stay in power. The only time Mr. Nawaz Sharif came out on the streets and re-embraced Chaudhry Iftikhar's cause is when his own Punjab government was dismissed. Let's not attach too much noble intentions to our politicians.
That is your point of view, but no, well, that is your point of view, Mr. Qureshi, but we can sort of see what the international picture is. The international picture is about the war in Afghanistan, the instability in Fatah, where the U.S. interests are based. And I think the international powers, basically, for the first time, they realize that when people move in the street, they do matter. And this Pakistan, today's Pakistan, is not like 1970s or 1980s Pakistan. It's a different Pakistan now. And I think this enlightenment, and you have more than $1 billion losses on the streets of Pakistan in terms of the economy, the economic losses, the way the country was brought to standstill, and the power of the non-political actors, i.e. Mr. Malik and Mr. Naik, who are considered as his cronies.
Mr. Zardari may not survive, but the PPP government will survive because the Americans want it. I understand from you that you're saying that the Americans want a democracy to flourish in Pakistan. I really, again, do not even attach noble intentions to the Americans. They're looking after their interest. They facilitated this government to come into power. They're using democracy in Pakistan, the Americans, to contain the Pakistani military, Pakistani intelligence.
The sort of passionate dialogue that we love to see on Four Corners, and I thank you very much.